As part of
Whatever you think is best.
So I do this. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, with that said, we're gonna miss that. I left this in the box that you have to bring it home, but this is your last meeting with us, so just thank you for all of your service to the library district and service to our entire community for many, many years. So thank you so
That's
much.
beautiful.
There you go.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier, this is really kind of bittersweet. I'm excited about the new challenge my husband and I are gonna have and the new adventures, but I'm gonna miss all of you and I'm gonna miss being part of this. And I want to be invited to come back when Redmond opens, and I would like to come back when when we do the groundbreaking for the central library. So I wanna be aware of those things happening.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
We
can come back more often than that too.
Okay.
All right. I got a notification that this is your 25th anniversary with the library.
Oh, okay.
So I asked the library staff for some dirt on Todd, and they gave me some here.
Oh, geez.
And so I want to say that.
With the dirt. Can I bring up my own embarrassment? Which one do you want?
Let's do
Alright.
the hard one. Think. It's not too embarrassing.
Oh, geez. Should I share that?
Oh, look at that. I like that. Sure. We need to turn some lights on.
Oh, no.
I think I can read. I actually have cleared that.
Oh, that's good.
Here.
That's good. Perfect. Okay. There isn't a sound.
Oh, I like the farms.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay. Since I'm in control, I can speak through these really fast.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, I don't remember bags of ice.
I don't either.
Right.
Oh, that was the ice bucket challenge.
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Hey,
So I wanted to say that, all of us, the board and the staff, we think Todd is a superstar, and I'll tell you why. He's got a BA in German and International Relations.
Hello.
Interesting. Is that correct?
yeah,
From UC Davis and an MLIS from the University of Texas. Go Longhorns. He began his career in Contra Costa, California, and soon found his way to Central Oregon. Just a few years into his library career, he was recognized by the American Library Association. Oh, I love that. As a young professional on the move, that middle one really looked very professional. Todd started with the Deschutes Public Library as a children's librarian for the Redmond Library in February 1999. He wowed the hiring committee with his reading and theatrics of Froggy Gets Dressed. And I wanted to say about that I never saw it, and I doubt any of us really saw it. So, Lori, if you could put that on the schedule.
hey,
I
great.
second that.
Yeah. All righty. After proving he also had a flair for supervising staff, he was appointed as the Redmond Library Manager, where he oversaw multiple mini remodels. And which got you ready for this bond issue, huh? In 2002, Todd was appointed as DPL's first Assistant Director and oversaw outreach services as well as 4 libraries in La Pine, Redmond, Sisters, and Sun River. After an extensive national search in 2009, the Deschutes Public Library voted unanimously to hire Todd as the new director. Under his directorship, Todd faced the second worst financial downturn in our country's history and was able to sustain the library services without any layoffs. Under his early days as director, the library established a floating collection, the opening of East Bend Library, and a partnership with Crook County Library. He facilitated the takeover of the law library from Deschutes County and began a 6-year process of analyzing library services, resources, and building capacities with the communities throughout Deschutes County. In 2020, Todd led DPL through the COVID pandemic, along with a lot of you guys over there too. I want to send out some shouts there. And kept the library services available to our public when many other libraries chose to remain closed. During this same time, he helped to inspire DPL to improve libraries across the county through the passage of a bond measure that would provide funds to design new and renovated libraries across Deschutes County. Todd stayed calm and undeterred through a storm of misinformation regarding the future of library buildings and land development, and is revered as showing tenacity for staying the path to its vision of providing improved library sources, resources, and spaces for all people across Deschutes County. Todd led the management team through the strategic plan with a focus on equity, diversity, and inclusion, EDI practices throughout the organization, and reimagined organizational structure to prepare the library for future growth and launch the 7 building projects. Outside of DPL, Todd has held many roles throughout the state of Oregon and Deschutes County. He served as the Public Library Division's president of the Oregon Library Association. He has served on the legislative committee for the Oregon Library Association and the Children's Division of the American Library Association Intellectual Freedom Committee. Locally, Todd served on the United Way Board of Directors, OSU Cascades Long Range Development Planning, and president of the local Rotary Club. Todd is beloved by his staff and community members and the board for his sense of humor and his passion for San Francisco Giants baseball and San Francisco's 49er football team. I'm sorry. I'm rooting for them, to let you know. His kindness and his ability to listen and work towards solutions is phenomenal. He regularly MCs literary events, obviously wearing some costumes, for the library, and is always a hit with the audience. Thank you, Todd, for serving the Deschutes Public Library Board, the library staff, and our Deschutes County communities for 25 years. We could have not have done this good work without you.
Well, thank you. Thought I skated through.
We have a person in the waiting room,
Yeah.
and if you wanted to switch me to host, I can keep an eye on that.
Yes.
And I have a certificate of recognition. You can add that with all your other
Oh, okay, great.
certificates and stuff.
Thank you.
And a check that you said you wanted to go to the foundation.
Yes, Great. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, are we ready to begin? You're not gonna take a bow or give us a froggy ghost dance?
No, I'm not sure my voice is up to it.
All right, let's see, the minutes from last board meeting. Has everyone read them and approved? Having changes? All right, do I have a motion to accept?
I move to approve the January 10th, 2024 board meeting minutes as submitted.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
I was absent.
Oh, okay. Motion passes. Public comments. I think we have one person,
Aaron Henson.
Aaron Henson, who was.
Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I've been a patron of the Deschutes library system for over 50 years. And I think you guys are doing a great job. I want to just say happy Valentine's Day to all of you for all your great work. And it's exciting to see the ambitious construction projects that you're taking on. I wanted to just plant a seed. This would probably be for the next director's, job, probably given the time span that it's going to take to do all the work jobs that are construction projects that you have in the pipeline now. But I was recently reading in Chicago, the housing authority there has partnered with the Chicago Public Libraries, and they've recently opened 3 housing library combos where they've provided this one that I printed out is the Independence Library. It's a branch library in the Irving Park neighborhood. And essentially it's a 2-story library with 44 senior housing units above it. And I thought, what a fantastic project that would be. Maybe someday to even have something like that in Bend, perhaps in the Bend Central District, where it could fit in really well. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time to do this and thinking about us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody online.
Okay. All right, the education of Sisters and Lapine buildings. We can't wait.
All right, so the last time we all met together was about a week before the last snowstorm. And as you recall, it was a long extended period. It wasn't just a snowstorm, it was massive snowfall followed by freezing rain and just cold temperatures for a good week. That's all laying the context for what happened on the 17th of January in Sisters, which was that we had a water line in the building burst and caused quite a bit of water to come out of the ceiling and flood into the community room and then start to spill into the kids area and even into the front vestibule. After the, I'll say first off that we were very lucky that we had some of those builders on site that day to address some of the remaining open items from their renovation. So they had people and the capability to start getting that water out as quickly as possible. I think that their best action helped us to limit the amount of water damage to the building and to the contents of the building. An overall assessment of what's been impacted at this point is mostly structural in nature. Water damage to the flooring, to some of the walls, but very limited area. And then basically the ceiling where the water is flowing out of. And then any of the associated insulation that got drenched as well. So after we had stabilized the situation, we were able to get a remediation company on site, Summit Cleaning and Restoration, and they started the process of demolition of a brand new flooring and a lot of the other elements. But one of the good news about this was that because we were able to get those movable shelves out of the area very quickly, that meant that none of those pieces of furniture were really exposed to an extended period of moisture. There's no moisture damage on any of the bookshelves or displays. I believe that all of the collections were determined to be free of any kind of moisture. And we were able to get that all out of that area and either moved off-site to our storage space in Redmond or redistributed in the other part of the library. There were some elements of the early learning furniture, some of those built-in pieces that did get some water on them, but those pieces were mostly made of wood and really cleanable, wipeable fabric, which was part of what we said. Kids are gonna get that dirty, we want it to be cleanable. So there was some evidence that water had gotten on them, but we think that all of that should be relatively cleanable. We don't have to toss any of it and replace that. So all in all, fairly limited extent. The biggest impact, honestly, is to our customers who had just come back into the space in October. We had reopened after the renovation, and unfortunately, we did have to close for a period just to assess the situation. I think total time that we were fully closed was about a week, possibly a week and a half, at which point we were able to set up a separating wall between the half that had been impacted and the other half of the building. And at this point, we do have limited service. We were able to cycle that up from no service to curbside service, and then ultimately where we're at now, which is full service, but in a limited part of the library while construction is ongoing. A couple of details here. One is that the obvious question that came up was, this pipe was an existing pipe that had been up in the attic for decades. So trying to figure out what exactly might have led to this. And at this point, we don't have a conclusive answer. That particular line was a line leading to a hose bib on the outside that, as part of the renovation, we had capped. But just capping the line in and of itself didn't seem to be enough of a change in condition to explain this. That line does reside up in an area of the attic that wasn't really touched in the renovation, but the original condition of that attic was that it was unheated and uninsulated. So it was exposed to however cold it would get in the attic space without any insulation there. The insulation keeps all of the usable space of the building really nice and tight and warm, but up in the attic, it's just unconditioned space. So we did identify that line, since it was capped on the end, as a good place for us to just cap it all the way back to where the line exited out of the conditioned space, out into the unconditioned space. And so now we've corrected this issue so that there's not a risk of it occurring in the future, but unfortunately it did happen there. The other thing I'd say is that we're in the process right now of working with special districts in order to limit the district's financial loss from the demolition and renovation. So I'm currently working with a representative from SDIS, a claims adjuster, and then bringing in the invoices related to both removal of the wet materials and then replacement with more of the. Basically, the goal is to get it back with the same kind of carpet, the same kind of wall treatments that we had before. So it should functionally look the same. And this is, again, a small silver lining of being so close to the renovation. All of those materials were still available and in stock, able to be reordered. And so it's going to significantly shorten the amount of time that side will be down. And then once it reopens, it should look functionally the same. Like the carpet will be the same colors that what we had in there. And then the wall elements and all of that. Right now, schedule is looking like the demolition is completed and the remodel part is going to take about a month. So we're aiming for sometime in the middle of March to have that all finished up and then checked out and signed off. And so at that point, we could take down that separating wall and reopen both the kids section and the community room back to the public. That is my point, or the point in my talking where I stop, and let me know what questions you have.
Well, my question was, if that was capped off, why did it have water pressure in it?
Well, so the line was capped, but there was still water pressure on the line, because there was nothing shut off on the other end. It was basically just, free flowing from the rest of the system. Again, as part of the scope of the renovation, it was considered to be outside the scope because we didn't plan to do anything up in the attic space. So our designs really didn't identify that line as something that needed to be touched, other than, hey, we don't need this hose bit here anymore, we're gonna put it here. So just cap that off. And that seemed like limited, really quick and easy part of the renovation. And in all parts of the renovation, you're always looking at like what's essential, so that we're not spending money where we don't need to, and we can really focus that money and time and attention on the places where we'll really see the benefit. This particular place was a miss on our part. It seemed like it was a safe enough condition, given that it had been there in place for 20 years, but it turned out it wasn't.
And are there any other lines that were capped off or?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So that was one of our first follow-ups was, okay, do we have any other lines where this is a problem that could bite us, not just in Sisters, but in Lapine and in Sun River? And so we went through that process. In Sisters, this was the only line. In Lapine, there's no water lines per se that are in unconditioned space. There are a couple of stretches of the fire sprinkler system that run through unconditioned area, or they go into rooms that are in the conditioned space, but they don't necessarily receive active heating from the HVAC. For example, the storage closet off of the community room in Lapine has a sprinkler head. That room, if it's closed, it's within the conditioned space, right? It's all insulated, but it doesn't have like a vent or anything that could be warming up that room. So as a result, the doors are closed. One of your walls is facing the exterior. If it got really cold, it could make that room really cold, and there could be a problem. So for now, we've instituted a policy where at end of day, they're leaving the doors open. Long term, we are working with some West builders to identify, maybe we can put in a small wall heater or something else that would kick in and just, help to supplement the heat if the ambient temperature in that room got to a place of concern. Yeah, and as far as Sun River goes, there were no lines running through open conditioned space, but if there had been, this was a great time for us to say, no, okay, let's take care of that too.
Good.
So I'm a little confused. You're saying that section had not been touched,
Yeah,
and so it's lasted all these years for really cold. And I assume the pipe itself was insulated,
the pipe was insulated, yes.
and there is some insulation in the roof.
No, that's the thing. So there's never been insulation in the upper part of the roof. There was only insulation from the floor of the roof, which was below where the line ran.
So all these years it survived these sub-freezing temperatures. What changed here that caused it to break?
That is the
And what
$100,000 question.
is it in any way tied to the renovation or construction work? Did something change there?
Yeah, it's definitely the first set of questions that we asked was to try and see, was there something in the condition that was altered in the process of renovation, even unintended consequences? And at this point, we're still in that information gathering stage. We don't really have anything conclusive as to a cause. It does not appear to be anything due to negligence or inadvertent damage to the line or anything like that. The burst was on like not even out of fitting. It was like right in the middle of a line, and it wasn't disturbed during any point in the process of renovation. So at this point, if it was related to a change in condition, it would have been more of an unintended consequence. For example, it could have been that we made the building more efficient thermally, which meant that we had less thermal leakage in the attic. That's one possible reason. that may be it, may not be it. But we need more information really to say conclusively.
There's nothing going to be, nothing in what we've done would make SDIS say, no, they're not going to cover this fully.
Well, I can't speak for full coverage because that's part of that negotiation with
Right.
insurance, right? But certainly they've opened a claim, and they brought on an adjuster, and the adjuster recognizes that, yes, the district sustained a loss. But now, like with any insurance claim, the insurance adjuster may say that the value of that loss and the replacement value is $1 figure, and then what it actually costs you to replace it may be different.
Okay.
And that's where that negotiation and conversation still has.
So SunWest has no liability in it.
At this point, I can't say one way or the other, but it does not appear from the evidence that there's any kind of at fault here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could always be fatigue on the pipe.
Could be, right?
20 years.
It's a 20-year-old pipe.
And did you check for fatigue and any of the other pipes, with the other building pipes?
You know what, I would have to take that as a follow-up to get back to the board. I don't know if they did like a full-on fatigue analysis of the pumping systems.
It's going to be way too expensive to replace the pipes. That's proactive.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Robert.
absolutely. You'll see me again, but I'll let Greg talk now.
All right, bond updates. Greg, you're on.
All right, good to see all of you today. So, trying to run through this quickly and get us out before the storm really slams everything. On, schedule, we're going through and doing an overall schedule update right now, so there's no real changes in the last report. Areas that we're looking at this month, and I do intend to, that we're gonna publish a new updated master development schedule here at the end of February. We've been working on that on all of the projects, and where they add any adjustments to it and changes in some of our strategies on a few things and evaluating some of the impacts. You know, at Sun River, we talked about that we had some structural changes. We've had another one come up. It's very solvable, fixable, but it's just things that we're finding existing conditions and a couple of other things associated like that. And so SunWest has really took a good hard look at their schedule of where do they think they can finish on it. And so we're going through and finalizing that. We're doing that also with Redmond and what's going on in Redmond. I think there will be adjustments on both of them as we work through this based on just what's gone on with weather and varying conditions. We're also kind of looking at how are we moving into those two libraries. Again, reassessing how the FF&E goes in, how the collection goes in, and how staff moves in to make sure that we're planning adequate time for each phase as we go through. And just re-looking at that, you know, we re-looked at it last August, September, when we published the schedule then, and we've continued to evaluate, hey, is our plan sound? Is there something we should do? And we're tweaking some of these things. And so I'll go through all of that with you next month, because we will publish it. Looking at our strategy around downtown Bend. You know, one of the things that we did, and this comes up a little later in the report, but we moved forward with the influence of the RFP. We're bringing on our CMGC and how we're going to start the design process and what that does. It really doesn't affect our end result, but it does affect how we get there. And so those kinds of evaluations are going on the schedule. Budget, no changes to the budget. It remained very static. We are going through and evaluating the budget as we get updated cost information coming in and not seeing anything or anticipating any significant changes to the budget. There may be some working through that budget evaluation and update as well as cash flow to then be able to provide that information back to Todd and Robert for their budgeting purposes as we are moving forward into the next fiscal year. So that planning is ongoing. I expect that will wrap up in March. So some of that may come to you guys with the March report that we'll review in April. And if there's any significant changes throughout on the budget side. So again, no real changes on either of those in the current report. It all stayed very static. Contingency maintains a healthy owner's contingency level. Procurement and contracts, as I mentioned, the big one we've got going right now is the CMGC for downtown Bend. So that RFP was issued. We actually received proposals yesterday and had a really good response from the contracting community. Got quite a few proposals in, and so we'll be going through that with the intention of in March, presenting that to you with a recommendation for awarding the contract. And so that will then kick off as we get them under contract and bring them on board with the team, within the design team to really kick off and start the design process for downtown Bend. And we'll work throughout that over the whole next year and then going to plan check a year from now. And in order to get prepped, and one of the things we want to do strategy wise is to get our plans complete, get a GMP set early with our contractor to pre-purchase materials well in advance. So once we close downtown Bend and start that renovation process, we have a lot of the materials. So to avoid any delays and get downtown Bend reopened as efficiently and swiftly as possible. So it's a strategy we shared with the CMGCs at a pre-bid meeting that we had, of what we were expecting and what we were looking to do. And it will also be in our interview process, because we really want a contractor that helps to bring that kind of vision and planning and thought process of, well, how do we achieve this goal? And so we think we have a really strong group of contractor proposals on this round. So I'm very happy with that. Insurance wise, we did finalize our builder's risk policy. That was something we processed previously, and they've wrapped it up. It's been bound and everything for the central library. Otherwise, all of the other policies are active, in place. Contractors are enrolled. I try to, like I've told you before, meet on a regular basis with Brown & Brown, our broker, just to see, hey, do they have any thoughts, concerns, and what they share. And so that's going really well. On design and construction on Central Library, we got to our 100% construction document set here at the end of January. So that set is done. It's been issued out to all of the project team for final review and comments, and we'll have some final edits in there and adjustments, as we've gone through. We always talk about the lessons learned, things that we figured out on Sisters and Lapine. Well, just over the last 4 months of operating Sisters and Lapine, DPL's figuring out, well, this works and this doesn't. And so we are implementing changes of that kind of thing, whether it's to our shelving systems, to our early learning systems, and a little bit to furniture, but definitely around shelving and some of that, what's working for the district and what's not, and making changes now on Sun River and Redmond because we've got the opportunity to do it because they have not fabricated anything. So those are things that we're going through, and we're also looking at how that affects Central and the package there. And we have a really good timeline on Central to fine tune all of that aspects. And with the building designs at 100%, but one of the things that falls behind the building design is the FF&E design. And that's all of our furniture and fine finishes, completing the early learning aspects and shelving. And that takes place over the next 6 to 9 months that those get wrapped up, but it's going to capture a lot of, again, lessons learned from our other libraries to be able to still apply to them as we go through that process. On Central, one of the things, we had a meeting with CEC, Central Electric Cooperative, who's our power provider. And, you know, we had submitted early on an application to have net metering, which allows us to utilize the power that we generate through our PV system, which is designed for a net zero application, which says we can generate as much power as we use. And net metering allows you to basically offset your power bill for that. CEC policy and programs that they had a cap of a 25 megawatt system, which is what you see on houses and small businesses. We have an 850 megawatt system, and we are considered a large power provider in the world of power. And our meeting here in January with them was them confirming that their board has approved a policy to now allow large net metering systems. And we will be the first in their group to do that. They're fine tuning the final details. They have to work with a number of, so BPA, Bonneville Power Administration, generates most of our power coming out of there. And then there's transmission groups that bring the power to us here, and then CEC distributes it. And so they are all intermixed in this little deal, but it was very, very positive. And as this gets finalized, we'll be able to announce this more formally to the public of what we're doing. But I think it's just one of those things where our project was really able to facilitate a policy change that's going to change how power companies deal with bringing in, and you hear all the time about we need to generate more clean, green energy, and PV power is one of those. And our project is like all other state-funded projects. We're mandated to spend a certain amount of money on it. And that amount of money means we're going to, produce a lot of power. And this is really going to benefit the whole community to be able to do other projects just like we're doing.
Yeah.
And so that was just, I think, something that was really satisfying and great to hear that we got over it. It took about 8 months, 9 months we've been at this, so.
Do we get paid for the extra power?
Yes, we do. Power, they're set rates. Your bill doesn't go to zero, but it reduces it substantially. And so they have a way they calculate when you put power back in, what they reimburse you. And then there's some fixed costs that you always pay for. But, so that was a real positive thing that happened this past month on Central. They're going through and getting the site ready for us right now. So our plans for our building permit are in third plan check, which is kind of the process that we've anticipated in planning. There will be a final check after the third, and expecting to get building permit here in late March sometime. Just depends on how quick the city is in finalizing that. So that's marching right along, and we'll start to see building going up end of March, 1st of April, or coming out of the ground, I should say. You have to do the underground plumbing and then footings and everything else, but very exciting of what's going on out there. The Redmond Library is moving right along. We're looking at the schedule, but hopefully you got to look at some of the videos and the pictures. It's really beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It is.
It's so
It's
cool
such a
to
beautiful
see,
building.
and you walk through and you see it all. So that's really advancing real well. The only things that we've been working on, we fine-tuned, the main stair well and everything in there of how that's going to work, the stair railing system and stuff that looked at that, and to really improve the overall visibility through from what our design was. Recognize that, hey, we could do better, and just the way it was shaped, originally configured, it reduced some of our lines of sight. So the design team came up with, I think, a really good solution, and staff and DPL was real happy with, working with artists. one of the things that with the artwork for that space is gonna be planned to be something that's gonna be very visible in that two-story opening space. And so as that gets further developed, we'll be able to see that, but I think this will also help facilitate its visibility. But otherwise, Redmond is marching right along, same with Sun River. I mentioned, we're always finding little issues at Sun River, but they're very solvable ones. But that's advancing right along. We're dealing with schedule issues there and kind of getting those brought up. Outside of that, like I said, procurement of our early learning and our furniture and shelving has been a lot of our focus to really fine tune those this past month. And I was seeing emails today where the revisions and the shop drawings were all being approved and sent back to the vendors and stuff, which is good spot to be in, that they're all getting ordered up. Sisters in Lapine, the one thing, we approved the revisions to our control systems, and we're really going through some initial planning that's been done by SunWest with their subcontractors and submitted for DPL to look at it. How do we implement it and minimize and control any impacts on the operational aspects and see what we can do. So that's advancing right now. We're not rushing it because of all of the other things that the two branches have dealt with over the last few months after opening, right? Is hate to have to go right back in and cause another little headache for them. So that planning's ongoing and will continue over the coming months, and then we'll implement those changes as that gets finalized. And, with East Bend, since we went through that in January and identified the scope and plan there, we're starting to implement that. You'll see that actually show up in the schedule update, is that we're kind of laying out how do we roll that out and how does that interface with the opening of Sun River, the opening of Redmond, and also that, because again, each time we touch one of those libraries, we're impacting staff in more ways than we probably ever thought in the beginning. It always does. So there's an active strategy going on of what's the right time to implement things there, and then getting those all lined out here this year. And so, kind of it on the report. Any questions?
Anybody have questions?
If not, I had one summary, which is, it was on our branch commissioning services, and I actually left a little section in the summary I wrote up, which was from a summary I turned in December that we went through. And you guys authorized a level of funding approvals, right, for when we added the commissioning scope for Sisters Lapine and Sun River. One of the things is we started then processing it. We found a mathematical error in one of our calculations, and which was the prior funding level for their total contract for the whole bond program, all projects, was 500,000. And we recognized that, hey, we're going to exceed that 500,000. Previously, I felt there was enough buffer from their contract to the authorization level to not worry about it. And one of the things that triggered this is at Sun River, we wanted to expand our commissioning agents' role a little bit to do more in order to really, and what it is they're doing more physical inspections during the course of construction and not just testing at the end. And it's to help minimize any corrective work at the end and ensure that as the subcontractors are building mechanical and electrical systems, that if we see something, and that's what the commissioning agent does, they go out there and they're really looking at, is it going in per plan, per spec? It helps eliminate that up front. It can be corrected early and not later, and then commissioned. So that added a little bit of work in that we wanted to incorporate into their scope. But as you can see, it pushed us over the current authorization level of 500,000 to 513,620. To incorporate that in. Part of that add isn't 13,000 for their scope of work, but my math error pushed me over 500 already. And it was a prior change order for the lead certification was not being added in my spreadsheet. So apologize for that, but I did put in here a request for an authorization of 550,000. And I do that so that when we have small changes in scope that we need to incorporate, because sometimes we figure out, hey, we'd like them to do this additional work, that it's within a reasonable amount. And that's why instead of taking it to 513,620, which would be their exact contract amount, it gives a little bit of leeway to make adjustments in their contract scope as we move forward. So, questions?
Okay, this one, we need a board approval.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve this, executive summary?
Also move.
Any seconds? Second. All those in favor? Motion passed. Thanks, Greg.
I'll wrap it up. Thank
For
you.
your owning up to the thing.
Yeah, it's definitely. All right, well.
Okay.
I will keep things as brief as I can to give you the information you need. Obviously, all the questions that you want to, but I don't want to keep you longer than you need to and always available to answer questions after. So this is our second quarter report. Just as a reminder, we're 50% through the year in terms of financials. So we're looking at that as kind of our benchmark in terms of what's reasonable, what deserves a little second look, and then see if that all makes sense to us as we go through. So the first page is our cash reconciliation report. For comparison, at the end of quarter one, our cash position modified accrual balance was around 206 million. So the overall balance has decreased by 3 million. There's two major drivers there. In the second quarter of every year, around November, is when the majority of the tax receipts turn over to the district. And so you see an increase in the cash position as a result of November. The second factor is ongoing construction costs, which that is probably our biggest driver for cash outflows at this point. And so on balance, overall cash flow was 3 million negative compared to last quarter. And that's all consistent with where we're at right now in our project. Other than that, the cash positions are all tracking fairly consistently from one quarter to the next. And so we'll move on from that and look at the highlight of each of the funds for you. So as I mentioned just now, so the amount of our resourcing on general fund is at about 99% because the majority of our tax receipts land in November. Also, our fund balance to start the year was slightly higher than was anticipated in the budget. So those two are probably the biggest drivers to why we're sitting very close to fully resourced at this point as compared to where we budgeted. In terms of expenditures, overall expenditures on the general fund are around 43%, which is right in line with expectation. Overall, our expenditures from month to month don't vary in a significant way. There are some seasonal variations for things like for the start of the fiscal year, purchases of annual software contracts and other big elements like that. But in general, we would expect it to run somewhere between 40 and 60% at this point in the year, and that's kind of where we're sitting. So things looking good there. A couple of areas that required a second look at, does it still make sense, was these elements that were slightly over or under 50%. Auditing is probably the biggest one that was above what was budgeted. It's actually due almost entirely because every year there are new regulations and standards, and this year was no different. We don't know what's going to hit when we put together the budget for auditing. And so there was a lot of time spent on that one piece, if you'll recall, from this last fiscal year audit related to the ongoing software and subscription-based IT arrangements. There was this new regulation that required us to go back and look at all of our lease agreements for all of our software licensing and go through all of that. So there's like a huge upfront cost, both with our CPA and our auditor, both related to getting that compliant with that new standard. Anyway, that's the big driver there for auditing. IT maintenance is running higher than 50%, but that's to be expected because most of the expenditures for software and maintenance support land in the first quarter of the year. Refunds are running high, but the amount budgeted for refunds every year is fairly small, so small variations drive you really close to that budget. And rent, as a reminder, always includes the next month's rent, so it's always going to be like 50% plus 1 month or 25% plus 1 month, because we always pay the next month early. In terms of the ones that are running well below 50%, all of those seemed reasonable, things that fluctuate with annual needs that we just like to set aside enough funds so that if there is a need in any given season or any given year, that we've got that already appropriated. In terms of capital outlay, we're tracking fairly well to where we thought we would be in the general fund. The big drivers on capital outlays this year are, as expected, the renovations, or sorry, the much needed material improvements to this building. Things like the siding was a big capital outlay, the repainting, and then IT purchases that are planned throughout the year. So those continue to kind of cycle in as old IT and equipment phases out. The other funds, taking a look at those quickly, the reserve fund, not a lot of movement on that one. When we put together the budget at the beginning of the budget season, we didn't yet know when the vehicles would be landing. Would they land in the prior fiscal year or this fiscal year? So we're significantly under budget, but it's because we set aside funds for something that actually landed the prior year. So it came out of last year's money. And so we'll continue to run under budget on the reserve fund expenditures, because only minor expenditures related to things like getting the shade covers for those vehicles and some other small infrastructure improvements on the vehicles themselves would come out of that reserve fund, but most of the money will remain unspent there, and you won't see it reflected in this coming budget because we don't have that out there at this point. Grant funds, so again, expenditures tracking to where we thought we would be here. Funds for the Ready to Read 2023 grant have been fully expended at this point. A novel idea is kind of mid-season, so you'll start to see more expenditures related to a novel idea in Q3 and into Q4. And then in terms of the capital projects fund, we're running both on materials and services and capital outlay, very close to expectation of where we thought we would be at this point in the project. This number does include the purchase of the land at Stevens Ranch for the Central Library. So it's already kind of baked in there. We won't really see another big spike related to the land purchase in future. It's already in this report reflected. And then as far as debt service, we have made our interest payment for the year, the interest only payment, and then the interest plus principal payment planned at the end of the fiscal year and the beginning of June. We have 92% of what we had budgeted for resourcing, and those monthly tax turnovers will make up for the rest of that amount. Right now, if we have to pay the interest and principal, we have it. It would just, we'll just continue to monitor that in anticipation of the next year's interest payment. So that was the whirlwind tour of finance for the second quarter. How can I answer any other questions you have?
I don't have any questions.
All right.
It's pretty clear to me.
Okay, quite briefly then, I'll just touch on the investment portfolio. This is a new part of that report. And we first rolled it out last quarter. So there's a couple other things to highlight on that particular report. The main thing to mention is that we did make some more investments in the second quarter in that general fund. So now at this point, our net position on investments in the with general fund money is roughly 15.9 million held in the safekeeping. And that's in line with, as we talked about before, the unappropriated funds from this fiscal year. So we made sure that no matter what, we have funds on hand to cover all expenses through to this fiscal year and into the first couple months of next year, by which when we get to the tax turnover in November again. A couple of things looking on the horizon is in next quarter, we will have one of those general fund investments coming to maturity. At this point, given our current cash position, I'm anticipating we'll probably reinvest that into another US Treasury. For comparison, in terms of the benefit of this approach versus leaving everything in LGIP, LGIP was running at 5% return every month of Q2. And our portfolio, the weighted average yield at 5.127. So we were able to get about an eighth of a percent additional return for this investment. And that's additional cash in the district's coffers to use for all kinds of upcoming expenditures. Then looking at the capital projects portfolio, which is that second page there, our current position as of December 31st on that portfolio was we were sitting at about $173 million with a total anticipated return of about 10.3 million on the overall portfolio. The caveat there is that we know that we have some amount of tax liability. We know we've reached that point where any additional gains are, the district cannot hold on to, but it will have to be turned back over to the US government because this was a tax-free issue of debt. So as a result, I don't anticipate any of these being reinvested when they come to maturity. We will just allow them to mature. We take the gains that we got from them, and then we make sure that we're holding enough in reserve in our budget to cover the tax liability when it's due in 2026. So that's the investment portfolio. Okay. Any questions? And I'll move you on to the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I really appreciate that, and the addition of the investment.
Yeah.
Lets us understand.
Yeah.
Who it is. Okay, there's no motion needed for that. Fund balance policy.
So, again, this is a required policy that the board has, basically saying how much minimal amount of money you will carry forward each year in the general fund. The board set this rate at 17%, which equals about 2 months of operating expenses, so that we can get into the next fiscal year and cover expenses until taxes come in. And we put this out every year as a reminder to ourselves. There's no action needed. I would say at this point, we are well above the 17%. So there's no real reason to start looking at changing any of the numbers.
Any questions on fund policy?
How much above the, we have? What is actual versus?
I don't remember the exact amount. It was in the budget report that I gave, and I had the percentage, which I can pull that up.
Or a dollar amount?
Budget. We were 14, so 17% would, and this budget was 3.1 million. We were at 14.4 million. Yeah, as a reminder, that was in anticipation of needing to increase staffing with the new buildings. So we'll start doing that with this next budget process, getting ready for the Redmond staff.
Any other questions? Moving on to early learning space.
We are going to postpone that till next month.
Oh, okay. Good. Harper, thank you. Okay, budget calendar. It's here.
Okay, budget calendar, you have three things you need to do. You need to appoint a budget officer. Typically that is your chief executive officer. Next is the budget calendar. Adopting the budget calendar, highlight here that we do have an issue with May 8th, which we sent out, but I never got a final resolution from the board. So we do need to set the May board meeting, knowing that we have did on May 8th, Ann will be out and Ray will be out.
Okay.
So that's one that we'd like to finalize today. And then the last piece is we do have 2 vacancies. I just need approval to post the vacancies. Again, people can ask to re-up, but we would also open it up to outside as well.
Have either one of them expressed an interest of?
I haven't approached anybody yet because I didn't know the date of the meeting. So as soon as I have the date of the meeting, I can start approaching people.
And neither one of these want to stay on, or do they want?
I don't know. I haven't approached
That's
them.
what you have to
Yeah.
do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to first work on the meeting.
Yeah, and I will say, we did have a poll out, and it did seem like that we were looking at May the 14th, which was iffy.
Oh, I thought we.
No,
were
sorry,
okay.
sorry, I'm in the wrong month. May, yeah,
14th.
we were looking at May 14th, which is a Tuesday. Ann was flying in on the 13th.
I get in the night of the 13th from Asia. So if I have difficulties, I may not be arriving in time.
And you couldn't do the 8th, is that,
Right, I will be gone on the 8th, but I will be flying back the night of the 13th.
okay. And
And then you,
I may be gone, I don't know for sure yet, but I can try and pinpoint that down. May 16th,
How about, would the 15th work?
15th might work.
I won't be back till, hopefully about 3:30 in
on
the afternoon of the 15th.
On the 15th. Okay,
If there are no plane delays, yeah.
then,
And you're leaving on the 16th?
potentially, I will certainly get on that right now, see. If I have a trip to New York City, so if that gets changed to earlier in May, I won't be able to do 16th or 17th.
Those both work for me.
Okay,
How about the 22nd?
pardon me?
How about, I mean, we're all right to go later?
she's heading out on the 17th?
Oh.
16th.
Oh, okay. We're heading out on the 16th.
I can do 22nd, is that too late?
No,
No,
Okay.
we usually
do
don't have
that.
a second full
Would that work?
budget meeting anyway.
Yeah.
We can always have it the week after or the next day.
okay,
22nd.
22nd.
That works for me.
okay.
Company board meeting on May 22nd.
We will,
I have it 2 to 3, is that the time frame?
for the budget meeting?
Yeah.
It would be our May meeting, so that would be noon to normal.
Oh, so this will be the main meeting also?
Yes,
Do budget.
yeah, that'd be the May meeting.
budget meeting and one meeting.
I will just have to check. So that gives us enough time to post for the next meeting, that's 1, 2, 3 weeks, should be fine. Got some legal requirements for posting for the budget hearing in June.
Everybody happy with that?
Are we gonna start early that day? Or still be, actually, we start at 11?
Well, actually, our, board meetings usually start at noon. So it'd be a noon meeting.
So it's part of the board, regular board meeting, we don't have a separate sort of work session or
No,
session.
no, usually we hold the, kind of shortened version of the board meeting and then break for the budget committee. And then we're,
Reconvene back as.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So we need to, do we have any more questions? We need to first move to appoint, Martin as budget director if we so choose to do, or appoint a budget director.
I move. Oh, okay, I'll second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. And then to adopt the budget calendar as submitted.
With amended to the May
As
22nd.
amended. I move to adopt the budget calendar as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
And the last piece, the board president has to tell me to, sorry, I just lost that. At the direction of the board president, I will advertise for applicants.
Okay, please do so.
Okay, I'll do it.
All right.
Next piece, oh, sorry.
Yes, the next is, the 2024 annual calendar.
And I drafted kind of a basic calendar, for you. For what we're looking at for the next year, there is room in here to add educational, programs throughout the year as well. A couple things to look out for are, I did put some suggestions for places to meet throughout the year, and some of it depends on availability. We should be able to, good to go in Sun River in October, but, may need to adjust as needed. Yeah. And then, yes, so those are all recommendations. We can always change locations as we move forward.
Sounds good. And do you have any of when we go to conferences or anything? That's not.
No, I didn't list any conferences. Also missing would be any, I put suggestions for when we might want to have work sessions, so I would just need direction from the board on scheduling.
Any questions?
We'll get back to you on this.
Yeah, we can definitely, one, I always consider it a living document, that I really put it up there for your vote, because it's one of your policies that, what is it?
Yeah, we gotta set the,
You have to set your calendar. Yeah,
we need to look at results policies.
oh, just that you will adopt an annual calendar.
Yeah.
How that looks is,
Yeah, unless we've already adopted that. Okay. So we're down to.
oh, well, actually.
No,
we're
we
different
haven't
kind of
adopted the
calendar.
annual calendar.
Oh,
We
yeah.
adopted the
And you don't have to adopt it today, but
Yeah.
if you want to make changes at another meeting, you can do that otherwise.
But there will be changes throughout the year.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Then a motion to adopt the flexible
The
2020
tentative
annual calendar.
I'll move.
Okay, okay. All those in favor? Okay. All right. Now, we're down to, Lake Edge policies.
And let me just check. Jennifer, is Jennifer gonna be available?
She should be, let me, sorry, I forgot we moved this up, so let me,
Yeah. Just checking, we have a third-party consultant, some the director 360 who was gonna report to you. That will be part of the
Good.
session.
Take a quick break.
oh, yeah.
Because we have a very fun dessert.
Oh. So are we?
You want to pause, you want to pause and have some cake?
Why don't we just take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and,
Then go into executive session.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
so I have to shut it down.
Yeah.
Okay, close this session. I'll start the library board meeting back in session. Okay, we are moving to foundation news.
So our library news,
Oh,
just so we're gonna skip the library board director linkage for 10 minutes while we wait for the person to come online. Library news, just wanted to alert you that we are going to be starting a monthly in-service day. And that is, as we see, we have so many changes coming with all of the building projects and really changing our philosophies and how we are changing things that we really have found we need to be able to get in front of staff, do training, education. And so we just realized that's a significant impact budget. It's one day a month that we will be closed to the public. But we're really feeling the crunch of this is a really necessary thing for us right now. When you're making this big of changes, it's very hard for us to explain it all in emails and posts.
so all the libraries.
All the libraries.
Okay.
And then currently that also helps us out. We currently shut down each library for a couple of hours a month for staff meetings. And we're gonna transfer all those to that same day so that we're minimizing the other disruptions across the district. We'll be starting that in April, with the April 11th, doing the second Tuesday of or Thursday of every month.
That'll be an all-day closure at all the libraries or just?
All the libraries, yeah. So we can bring all our staff together and work on training. Other news, you may have seen, or if you do see and start panicking, there is a new law that for special districts, each board member is required to attend public meeting law training once per year.
Mhm.
And I just want to highlight that I haven't pushed that out to the board because SDAO has been wrangling with the state about who is authorized to conduct that training. And because I know SDO will have a very good training for you, but they haven't gotten the okay from the state yet to be the ones that can do it. So I'm kind of waiting for them to sort that out. I expect within the next month or two that we should know better, but I just wanted you to know in case you're getting SDAO things and starting to worry about your training. That will be coming up. I'm not sure if it will be available as an online. I'm assuming it will be available as an online training, but we'll see. So that's kind of a new impact that's hitting board members.
Is that once a year or once during your term?
It's the last I looked at it, it was once per year.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Who is requiring this?
the state of Oregon.
And,
So. Okay,
It's effective January 1st.
okay, I just wondered whether that was. Well, that would make no sense. Never mind. Yeah, I was wondering whether it'd be through Workday, which is where all the state training is through. But I don't think they would give access to Workday for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody on boards and commissions all over the
Yeah,
state, so.
right now, the agent, I think it might be the Secretary of State, they do offer some training, but
Okay.
I'm really more interested in getting SDAOs because it's gonna be more relevant to
Right,
you.
and is it the same type of training as the last time, or do they shift?
I don't know. I'm not sure what they'll be covering.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. My other one was we needed to schedule a May board meeting. So we did that.
Okay.
Was there another legislative action that we were required to do? Every board member is required to take ethics training.
I would have
Once
to,
during their terms. I thought there was something on that first.
I'll have to research that.
For state boards, we have to do that.
Once a term, once during your term, right?
No, it's
Once a year?
once a year. And sexual harassment and discrimination and, like online security,
Wow.
things of that nature. So it's every year.
Wow. Okay,
And that was it.
that was it.
Foundation news, Ann.
Well, we had, our first in-person author, in 4 years, which I had to be reminded that it had been 4 years. Because last year we were doing, the combined thing with Novel Idea, but it was a wonderful, wonderful event. We had almost 1,000 people, and just the level of excitement and celebration of all being able to be back together with all the readers in Deschutes County. I mean, it was an incredible evening, I thought, didn't you, Todd?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, people were so appreciative, and the author, Anne Lamont, did a great job. And our next one is March 1st. Stephanie Land, who's the author of Maid and Class. So, and one of the things that was really interesting about the last one, and it is true every time. I mean, the different authors bring different groups of people. And Anne Lamott crosses a lot of borders. She has a lot of different things about her writing to appeal to a lot of different people. So the crowd was much younger for the most part. And I think that's gonna be the case with Stephanie Land as well. I mean, it was really a diverse group of readers, good questions, Todd did a great job. Everything went really well. So that's very exciting. And our ticket sales are going great guns this year. It's the best ticket sales we've ever had. We've sold more season tickets this year than we ever have before, so. That just is a tribute to the great job that Chantal and her staff do in bringing in authors that really resonate with people and expand our horizons, so. It's cool. Yeah.
Your important foundation announcement is all these cookies are from the foundation.
Oh,
Thank you.
It's also something that they're doing to, thank the donors that have been giving to the capital campaign.
Alrighty, let's see, we have 5 minutes before our speaker. Do we want to go ahead and do critical communication and self-review?
Yeah, I do not have any critical communication coming out of this meeting.
You guys want to go ahead with self-review, even though we have a little segment left? Sure. Okay. Anywhere.
Once again, good meeting. Appreciate Robert and Greg's presentations. Looking forward to our applicant interviews in March and moving forward there. We will miss you, Cynthia, and thank you again for all your service and best of luck in this new adventure. Thank you.
All of those things. I thought it was a good meeting. We covered a lot of ground fairly quickly. I also wanted to say that you will really be missed, Cynthia, and I think you've done just a stellar job representing the community of Redmond, in addition to watching out for the interests of the entire district. and your knowledge and your multifaceted knowledge from a teaching perspective, from a former bookstore owner perspective, and just your good common sense has just been a really welcome addition to the board.
Thank you.
And I wanted to give a shout out to Todd. Congratulations on 25 years. I love that tribute to you because it really shows all the ground that we've covered over this time, back from when you were constantly rearranging the Redmond Library, trying to find a way to get that space to work. Every time we'd go there, it would be different. So it was just warm-ups. It was just batting practice, I could tell. But you've really accomplished a lot in your time here, and I know that you have, especially from just coming off author. Todd has groupies. I mean, he has major fans in this community, and the fact that people know who our library director is and love our library director, I think is part and parcel of them loving the services that we provide. So thank you for all your hard work.
I have to say, I can't believe that there are too many other library directors out there that are willing to get dressed up in the costumes that you've been dressed up in over the years. I think that really shows, you know, you have a fun side. That I think that's one of the reasons we have such a devoted staff, because they know that they have a director that they can turn to. The biggest thing I think about you is how you're always thinking ahead, like the thing that now that you're going to start having the meetings on a regular basis, and the fact that you rearranged everything. That forward thinking is exactly what a library system the size of Deschutes County needs. So I think that's really neat. I'm gonna miss your reports. I'm gonna miss watching all the changes that are taking place. And Robert, I will most definitely miss your reports. They're always great. I wish all of you guys the best of luck as you're moving forward. You've got a lot of things ahead of you over the next couple of years that you got to work on. So I just wish you nothing but the best in all the endeavors that you have that'll be coming down your way.
Thank you. Well, first, Robert, great, thank you very much. Nice, concise reports. Excellent. Cynthia, how dare you? Everybody knows you don't leave this board vertically. You want to get out of here horizontally. That's the way it's been in the past.
Yes.
No, good luck on your moves. I don't think you're gonna have so much fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Just don't run into any more snow. Take the snow blower with you, my God. But have a great time. You're gonna enjoy the grandkids and everything.
Thank you.
But we will miss you. And do come back and visit.
I will.
You're always welcome to come here. Public comments. That'd be great. We'd really like to have that. And Todd, I remember when George Reiser and I, we were the two from the board that were delegated to follow you around and see how you interacted with the public. And I'll tell you right offhand, in the very beginning, we were saying, Todd is so straight-laced. He was very straight-laced. This guy was, and so went to the very first, I guess it was in Malkin or somewhere. Yeah. And he brought out his robots and everything, and went, who is this fellow? This guy is not bad. He's really cool. He's a little crazy. We need this. Very creative. That was the thing. He was very creative. He had the audience, the public in the palm of his hands. When he finished the presentation, everybody's going like, and more. Stay all night. And so that's when we decided, Todd is the right guy to lead us into the next 20, 30 years. And glad you're here. Done a smashing job. And your costumes are fabulous. Thank you.
Breathtaking.
Looking forward to Froggy gets dressed though.
Yeah. We're all gonna miss you, Cynthia.
I would like to thank both of you guys for giving us a quick presentation, so we don't have to plow through the snow too late. And Cynthia, you will definitely, Cynthia and I go way back to bookstore
You and I
days.
go way back.
Way back. And I will definitely miss her for sure. And Todd, I was just, when I got all of the dirt that they gave me, wow, it's a great career. Don't end it. Keep it going. And it was a great meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay,
She is online.
Okay.
good time.
Hey, I guess, Robert, can you make me host again?
I can. And then I'll wait for that.
For the meeting.
Good luck.
Oh,
Good luck in your move and everything.
well, thank you very much. I'm gonna miss you.
Good luck in Southern Oregon.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
You can walk to a library.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you for all your support too. I really appreciate it all. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for
Oh. Next meeting. Yeah. Why don't you do it? Yeah, that's really true. Now, or you can do
Yeah.
it. Next one.
That bouquet is just beautiful. Yeah.
It's so pretty.
Okay, you just need to gavel us into this and say these words.
Okay. Say these ones.
Yes, the Deschutes Public Library.
Okay, and I have to, no, I don't have to be able to say we were here already.
Now you're going to executive session.
Good,
We're in an executive session. Right?
yes.
Okay.
And so that means if we have, I have to check for participants. So other participants, I will have to put you on.
Remove. Right?
Move. Make a rename, start, remove, put in waiting. So I have to put you in the waiting room. And I will start doing that. Waiting room, Cynthia stays, Jennifer's here. Okay, we're good.
Okay, I'm gonna take us out of public session and we're now in executive session. And we will welcome
Oh, and you need to say these words.
the Deschutes Public Library District will conduct an executive session to review the performance of the library director as pursuant to ORS 192.6602I.
Okay. Thank you. First.
In the executive session of the library. And I'll begin in public session.
Okay, so Jennifer, you want to come up here and join us? So, one piece, do you need to, how did you want to share your information?
I have thumb drive.
Okay.
Would be okay.
Yeah, you can do that or join on Zoom, either, whichever one works for you.
Let's do the thumb drive option.
Okay, great. Check.
Board of Trustees.
Sure it's gonna help it. Oh, there
She took kids. It's longer, we should. And do you want me to steer, Todd, or do you?
Sorry, yes. So, just as a reminder, I'm sorry, I'm trying to hide this thing. I can't get it. One of the things that you have asked for Jennifer in the past is a comparison of, director salaries. And so that is one of the things Jennifer's about to cover for you. And I will let you go there. Remember how to hide this.
Hybrid,
Where does it say that?
high floating. Can I go and take it? High floating control?
Names, high floating, thank you. Okay,
Okay, can
again, you want to,
I?
yes, here,
Okay.
if you want to, here, let me just get out of your way.
Okay, well, hello. Good to be back with you again today. And then just by way of a little bit of review, since we do this once a year. It is our practice, both with the executive director as with all positions, to do these studies externally. So we have a third-party compensation consultant who pulls this information for us. Part of the reason being that they have access to a lot of additional information with respect to these salary surveys that we may not have. And also, they're the experts and have done a nice job of advising us. So today, what I thought I would do is just kind of go through and talk through the information for this year. And then I thought it would be good to kind of look at a longitudinal picture of director salary over the last couple of years. I just had some observations that I just simply wanted to share with the group. Just that I felt it might be some food for thought. So, so this right here, and it is very, very dense, but what this represents is information from two national salary surveys. The first being the Economic Research Institute, and the second being Comp Analyst 360. These are well-known salary survey organizations, which we consistently pull from for this type of study. And what we also have up here is we have a bell curve. So we have a range from the 10th percentile to the 90th percentile with the midpoint. So if you can imagine a bell curve with the midpoint being right around 50%. And then on occasion, you might see here that, for example, if you look at, let's see, up here it says no adjustment needed, versus say down here where it says Oregon data scoped to Bend, Oregon. Some of the information has to be what's called geo-aged, and that is adjusted for the fact that salaries may be higher or lower in a given zip code area. So it's in the case of this particular area, we often find that salaries are aged upwards in accordance with the general standard, cost of living factors in this particular area. So as we did last year, we pulled in information that was consistent with the executive director or CEO of a nonprofit organization. We've done this now for a couple of years. What we found in years past was that the library director to our library director comparison was not apples to apples. And really the nonprofit government services kind of area fit the spectrum of the job description for this position a little bit more aptly. So for this year, so what we've done is we've taken an average. This year we had 2 points of reference with ERI and Comp Data Analyst. We did have a third one last year. I was informed they went out of business, so we were not able to utilize them this year. Milliman, which is another kind of a public sector stalwart in this particular area, doesn't have their results published yet. And we often find that potentially there isn't an apples to apples comparison either. So we went ahead and had this computed based on an average of the 2 national surveys. And what we find just down here is the low end of the range for comparable positions in this space is 127.5, with the midpoint averaging out at 199.2, and the 90th percentile at 293 plus. So that averages out here. We took the midpoint here, the 50th percentile, the middle of the bell curve, age to February of 2024. And the figure that you see here reflects that number. And then DPL's range.
It's kind of hard to see from back here.
Which,
Maybe just blow it up a little bit so we can see the numbers, or just say what they are.
Yeah.
Just those 2 numbers we can.
this one, these
Yeah.
2? Yeah, that's where. So the number here, the midpoint of the range, was 1,999, 287. The current base salary for the GPL director is $164,356.25. So, and that's just highlighted for just to make sure that that's a little bit more visibly present. So that's what our results were this year. And then I can kind of just quickly show you where that compares to last year. And then we can go and look at kind of a more longitudinal picture. So moving forward here, and I apologize, I'm a lefty and a righty world here again. Last year, and I'm just gonna go down here, the midpoint of the range was calculated at 171,653, and the executive director base salary for the last fiscal year was 156,530. So the last thing that we put together, it's sometimes valuable just to see a broader picture. And so what we have here is, and I apologize here, let me see if I can get this out of the way. Probably not.
That's right.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
So we go by contract date or fiscal year. So we've got from 2018 through the anticipated coming year. And as you can see, it appears that the director's base pay is influenced specifically at this point by COLA adjustment. So but what that means is base wages going down this column increased by the factor of the all staff COLA percentage. This area I gray shaded simply because the fresh off the press COLA number that we calculated that we believe to be what we'll be using this year is 4%. And so I factored in using the same logic with what the 4% increase would look like. And then, of course, we don't have the board approved bonus amount, yet entered. A couple of things just to note, it does appear that the director's salary is largely adjusted by COLA. And so if that's the historical method that the board uses, then just know that that's something to potential talking point at some point. The other is just a note on the board approved bonus amount. So it appears, at least from my review, that the bonus amount is not tied to any particular, what I would call a key performance indicator or a documented or known performance measurement, that it appears to be somewhat discretionary. I would say perhaps the board might want to reflect going forward in the state of Oregon, that the state of Oregon folks, especially with compensation, like numbers that can tie back to certain things, just kind of a pay equity best practice. So something maybe to consider going forward. So that's pretty much the information that I have to present to you today. I'm going to go ahead and pause and see if there's any questions.
So you're saying basically since 2019, the raise for the director has been COLA. Okay, thank you.
And accrual plus the PTO.
Oh, sorry, HR lingo. PTO is paid time off, so that's the director's, we call it time management here, but it's vacation and sick time and all that in the same.
26 hours.
Yeah, 26 hours. So given somebody who's been with us for 25 years, that's where the director falls on the time off accrual scale. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more quick question. So are you recommending that if the board, when I'm leaving, but still, it's my information. So are you recommending that if the board is going to continue giving the bonuses, that there should be a criteria?
That would be my best practice recommendation. It always feels right in my world to be able to explain something.
Exactly.
So yes, that would be my recommendation.
But the bonuses that we have previously given, can you justify it in that it's somewhat consistent or not?
I wouldn't probably be able to speak to that. So really my comments are more on a general scale for food for thought.
And for the numbers that the salary comparison numbers, were those adjusted for time of service, or those were just like what people make, no matter what?
So a good way to look at that is in large part captured here. So this is not always the case, but the trend is usually an individual who is newer to a position tends to fall more into the minimum side of the range. Whereas as a person in that position has seniority in the position, they move over time from kind of one side to the other. So in this case, you have an incumbent who's served in the role for 10 years. 15, sorry.
Yeah.
15. So that would kind of be a factor to consider, but really that would be one way of looking at that range.
And so we're looking at one company, that mid-range is 219 and the other company is 178. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Okay.
We're down to the bottom of this one. Where you have the average.
The average of those
Yeah.
two would be 199.
So presently, PTO range, that's not exactly range, that's his current contract, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you were saying before that the best comparison was in the nonprofit for description of job?
That's correct. So the way the job description for the position is written, it tracks more in alignment with the type of scope of positions pulled for the survey.
That's interesting.
Well, because I think earlier Jennifer had gone out and gotten, tried to get library comparisons, and there aren't
Right,
good comparisons
right,
for a system of our size, and, yeah.
yeah,
And so for what Todd's duties are, I was kind of reading through there, and it comes
mhm,
closer to what he actually does.
right,
Yeah, a lot of library directors in the state are more on the level of maybe an advanced librarian or a lower level manager of our system.
yeah, they're also
Okay.
part of some other domain.
Yeah, right, so they're like
Or
a
the
city
city.
department head as opposed, well, even at that, I mean,
Mhm.
when you look at
That's
what
interesting,
city
okay.
department heads make, they make more than this.
That's always been a hard one for us to decide on, what's the comparable in terms of job responsibility.
It's a superintendent.
So, at 164 to 178.
Why is there?
And I know historically, I mean, we went through, Todd managed us through a number of extremely lean years, right when he took over, as a matter of fact, he hit the sweet spot. And he did not ask for or receive a raise for many years in there at the beginning of when he took over as director. So he started out, I mean, he did, his salary did not advance at the rate at which it normally would have from the beginning. And I'm just concerned. I know that the COLAs have been heftier in recent years, but I'm concerned about pay equity here.
Since I come here every year and tell you that I'm just happy to work here, I will say it raises a concern for me. Cause the last 6 years, it's basically, well, one, in my contract, I automatically get the COLA. So the base salary basically is not changed except for the COLA.
Right.
And I understand that's what the bonuses were trying to balance that a little bit, but you're starting to see a divide there. And then the other thing to realize, and I'm sorry, because I didn't dawn on me until now. I've kind of shifted from that early level director. I'm now at 15 years. I kept my mouth shut when the cake was out here, but I also have another anniversary. And that is, I just hit 15 years as director.
Right.
So I think we also should be thinking along the lines of, we shouldn't be looking at a beginning level director. We should be looking mid to the higher range.
Yeah.
So I do see an imbalance there.
Right. And this impacts, I mean, it impacts our budget, obviously, but it also impacts Todd's future as far as retirement goes.
But it also impacts the library too, because Todd's not always going to be the director, and so, you're gonna wanna have a level that is going to encourage other people of Todd's caliber. Yeah, we want somebody of his caliber to be able to take over his role, and so if all we're doing is using COLA to advance the salary, I don't think that speaks well of the library system or the board for
Right. I mean, if we say we value our employees and we value retention, and Todd is our only employee, we're not doing, I don't think we're doing a very good
I
job.
agree. I have to admit, I was not, until you just showed us that, I was shocked to see that the only increase has been, I mean, we've just been relying on COLA. That's not been.
Colin
helpful.
and some
gets any-
very small bonuses.
Yeah,
And
anyway.
And I don't know how many,
That bothers me.
how many other library directors are managing $195 million project. I'm sure there are some, and then some will be more, but I would say that's a very small percentage of library directors that's doing that.
In this state, too.
Two, you and
And really.
Multnomah County.
And I would say in defense of the board and everything, that I've been right along with you on this process for the last few years. I think it's just, we're just starting to see that divide grow, and it's a reflection
Right.
of sticking with the COLA as a.
So Jennifer, why, are school superintendents just too different? Is that why they're not, you don't consider them at all in the mix of comparisons?
You know, I think I'd probably have to defer to the experts who pull the survey, and I think really they pull by scope of work. And it would be my assumption that if the scope of work were similar enough, it would be factored into the materials, so
Okay,
I don't know.
thank you.
I don't want to compare to school superintendents. I could not do a job.
So
The other thing we did with the bonuses is that the base salary does affect our PERS for the library, PERS commitments.
Right.
So a bonus does not.
I think Jennifer should weigh in. I'm not sure that's true.
Not necessarily.
Really?
Yeah, so, and of course, I don't have my PERS information in front of me, but I would opt on the side of being conservative about that. So, income is income.
In the high end, average is 2.3 or 2.9?
293.
It's 293, 112.
Yeah, but if you compare it to the nonprofits. Right, the mean 178.8, the high is 214. So we're about 14,000 below the average.
And do we have any idea of the actual terms of most library directors? Are they 15 years? Is that a long time? Are you an old guy in this, or are
Any,
I would say based on my recent attendance to directors' meetings,
Mhm.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Or we're talking with a director who's been around 5 years, and when they gasp when they say 15, yes.
That makes you feel kind.
So-
Got it.
It's the employees that weren't born when they started our class.
okay, do you have, based on salary, do you have information on dollar amounts of what a 1% raise would be, and a 2% raise would be, and a 3% raise would be?
No, I wasn't quite sure what direction the board wanted to go in terms of analysis. So really, the only thing that I put together was just this calculation showing a hypothetical 4%.
A 4%
So
would take
that-
him to 170.
Yeah. And that would be,
Oh, I see, okay.
yeah.
And that 4% is the cost of living that's.
Right, so you will be getting
regardless.
regardless, but if we were to do,
An additional.
if we were to say,
So you got about 4,000 difference.
What if we put him in
No.
between the mid-range? He's certainly been here longer than most mid-range.
right,
Maybe he's not the oldest one, but we could do, an average between the two is 246.
They
So
can-
that would be a big jump in.
So say that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we went to 200,000,
That's a pretty big jump.
it's a big jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, I get, rather than percentages, I guess, maybe we should talk about dollar amounts and say what seems appropriate.
Where do you feel comfortable staying out of the media?
I'm not. I would say what I would be hoping is that it's one, that it's not just something that's egregiously out there, but really something that's getting us into a more competitive position, because I do agree at some point you want to attract others, and I'm not, that doesn't necessarily, that by saying that doesn't mean that you're going to pay that salary to the right person.
Right, right.
You will probably get
Ratchet
somebody
it back,
fresh
yeah,
and come back near the beginning, but it shows that you try to stay competitive based on where they
So
are.
we can do is,
Just to kind of give you a,
yeah,
you know, a sense like it has changed rapidly in the last 5 years, because the bulletin posts everybody's salaries. And like the head of the Parks and Rec is now at 250,000 a year. There are multiple administrators, in the county and the city, that are beyond my salary. And that's the part where I worry for the library, is that we're out of sync with a, you know, position that really doesn't have the same level of responsibility.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I mean, I think anybody could see that if you're leading an organization with a budget of this size and this number of employees, you're clearly underpaid, given what other public sector employees are making throughout Deschutes County.
I don't know, the public just looks at the number.
Yes, good point.
Well, I know, but I mean, but at a certain point, do you hose your employees because they say, well, cops are making too much, teachers are making too much, librarians are making too much, so we're just gonna pay all of our employees poorly. I mean, we don't say that with the people other people that work for us. We say we wanna maintain professionally equivalent, comparable wages to what people in the rest of the state are making. We want to be equitable. We realize the cost of living here is high. And I'm not talking about just throwing away money, but I think this has been a situation that has not changed for a number of years. And there's an equity issue when it comes to Todd here.
And it's gonna get worse.
And it's gonna get worse, exactly.
Well, what we've done in the past is we've asked Todd what he feels comfortable with. That's why we ended up with this. But if COLA, if the bonus counts into our PERS, is that what you're saying, Jennifer?
You know, I would feel more comfortable if we actually consulted hers and responded back to the board, simply because Todd's compensation process is a little bit more unique.
And
So assuming it does though, all right? I think we have a combination, what we're looking at is a combination of a salary increase plus the bonus to get us to the number we want. Because for the public then, all they would be looking at is salary. If they look at the total compensation, okay, fine, but they see that as a bonus for work. In their minds, I think in the public's mind, a bonus is different from raising somebody's salary, which is saying, yeah, every year they're gonna be getting this bump in salary, which I think is not too palatable for most of the public on this side of the mountain.
From experience over the last few years, what tends to upset people is the bonus.
Oh, the bonus.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, I get emails, every year when that comes out, because
then let's just do the salary.
why are you doing? Yeah, my 2 cents on this is, about the time we started doing this, it was a concern that my base wage was going up, and with cost of living, it would just keep going. I think some things to ease your mind are, one, I'm not gonna be around forever. Two, we've seen the base, that base, it has gotten so far behind. Really, I think setting that is all, I don't think we should set that and do a bonus. I think just get it to the number
And we think
where you
is
want to be.
equitable.
Yeah, and I would probably start factoring off the 164, realizing that whatever you set is going to automatically get a 4%, because that's part of the contract.
Yeah, so that'll go to 170 or that.
And if you kind of want to know my comfort level is, I would say anything at 200 and below is, puts us well within where we can point to
Anybody,
anybody in similar positions and say it's not at a.
Right.
Yeah.
and I think that's, I mean, I think we have to, whether we move in that direction. I think we need to move in that direction. And whether it takes, and whether we are committing to, in our minds, a 2-year catch-up period, or, I mean, we aren't gonna be able to totally catch up. But, I mean, what is is 190 this year, and then look towards another increase next year?
I would feel more comfortable with 200 or 199.
Okay,
I mean, 199
Okay, well, that's-
was
I'm
just
good
in
with that.
mid-range.
I'm good with that.
I am too.
I mean, Todd's been managing a huge,
Does that include the COLA?
That's,
It doesn't go on top, does it?
yeah, that's where, if your goal is to get to 189, I think we should factor it, take out 4% and figure out what that number is,
Okay,
and then know that we would be at 199.
So your COLA I thought you got it, at least that, and what we give is over, but you get it on top.
It's
of-
by contract, you make my salary, and then on July 1st, the cost of living also kicks in.
$8,000 is 4% of $200,000.
Yeah.
So if we put him at 192,
Mhm.
he would be receiving $200,000.
Cause then the COLA would.
Gets the COLA.
But he doesn't get that until July,
That's correct.
so you only get half a year of it.
Well, all of this is,
All of this
starts July 1st.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay.
no matter what.
Part of this is for our budgeting
Right.
process, so we can get that in there. Sorry. to do that.
So does 192's, given that he will be making $200,000, does that sound good to people?
Yeah, that sounds
so
good to
actually
me.
we're
That's an
gonna
increase from
recommend plus the
164.
COLA. Right, got it.
And that would put him in the mid-range, and he really should be at the top of the
That's
range.
right.
So I mean, I feel like part of this is if we get asked, why the big bump? I mean, to say, this is based on salary surveys, and this is actually the low end of where he should be.
That's right.
His pay has not increased, other than the COLA, for years, and this is a catch-up.
And I
also to
think
explain
pointing
to people
to,
that This is a reflection of the district.
Right.
yeah, and pointing to the fact that, Ben Parks and Rec, executive director makes 250. So I think you could say, we gotta get,
You don't wanna go there.
well,
You definitely do not wanna go there.
so there are other executive directors around
Go back to the
that
previous.
probably have less responsibility.
Way less.
But made 250,000.
Scroll back to the previous
So we're
one.
just trying to catch him up.
Right, yeah, no, I don't feel,
Because if we look at the non-profits,
Are you looking at
Yeah.
the current year?
yeah, so 170. What's the non-profits this year? 178.8 at midpoint, 213. So 192, we're getting up to which percentile would it be in on this bell curve?
it'd still be below the 75th percentile.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this isn't, his salary is out of whack, I believe, seriously.
And so it has to be brought up, do we want to bring it up all at once, or do we want to bring it up incrementally over several years?
I think,
I prefer the incremental just because of the perception of it. I mean, if we get it there within the next 2 years, we don't have to do the same amount next year. We can do as a percentage basis of a bigger number, it becomes a bigger number, we'll bring them up.
Closer to that.
And plus the 4% COLA,
Mhm.
or 3%. Oh, I get that from my property taxes in Santa Barbara. 3% of a small number is, when it gets to a big number, it's like, geez, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's a very big number.
So you're saying incrementally, so what are you saying what are you recommending the salary be?
But what do we want to get to him in the long run? We have no way of knowing what's gonna be next year. Any projections that what we think is gonna happen? We know it's gonna go up, we know
Well,
that.
we're not
all of us are
talking
going
about,
up.
and we're not tired, we're talking about his compensation, not necessarily the COLA.
Well, that's on top, I mean.
I know, but what is a fair compensation for the job he does?
So,
Where do you wanna reach? Do you wanna go up to 199 in 1 year? From 164, or do you wanna reach?
Bunny,
Probably
how would you
be
recommend
200 and
moving it up
215.
I would not feel comfortable with anything less than 192 plus the 4% COLA, bringing it to
At
200
this time?
at this time.
Oh, okay, I thought you were wanting to do less, so
No.
you're willing to do one, that's what.
Yeah.
What,
I
what's your
feel
sense?
like that's barely to the mid-range. And I think he's beyond the mid-range. There's no question about that. But do we want to bring him up to 246, which would be the mid-range? Maybe not. Maybe we get too much flack for that. So we bring it up to 200 this year. And then next year, try and bring it up to that average between mid and high.
Yeah, we can,
Get to
well, we
that.
can have the discussion again, and what's your sense? Amy?
I'm thinking Todd's salary towards the higher end, but I would feel very uncomfortable doing that all in one shot. So if we did it incrementally, do a fairly sizable increase this year, thinking again next year, adding that, so we're moving along, but not just in one big jump.
So
So you're saying is 200,000 too much this year?
Well,
That's,
I like the 192, then the COLA.
Right.
And then maybe next year we could go even
I
beyond.
would say doing that, you would be in good position next year to be able to make adjustments without
Too much of a.
Okay.
Be a giant jump.
Can I make a motion?
mhm.
Please.
Okay, I move to grant Library Director Todd Dunkelberg a pay increase to $192,000 to be administered with the July 2024 payroll and to extend his contract through June 30th, 2027. His compensation shall also be increased by the negotiated cost of living adjustment COLA granted to other employees of the district.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And by keeping it, I think, at a 192 level, it doesn't go out to the public as necessarily 2% or 200. So that's a kind of breaking, the 200.
Well, I mean, I think
It will show up in the budget as 199.
Yeah, because of the.
Because we have to set aside
Right.
how much is.
yeah, that's all right. Yeah. It was shocking to me. I thought I read somewhere that for a family of four, poverty level is now like $70,000 a year.
Yeah.
I went, "Hey, you better be kidding me."
Yeah.
That's what I was making.
Okay.
That was more than I was making.
Well, thank you.
And so we're going with the 192 and COLA and no bonus?
And no bonus.
Okay.
That was not part of the.
Got it. Okay.
Okay,
Is that it?
yeah, we did my hands.
End of meeting.
All right.
That was my last vote.